Hey, then how you doing?
I'm
Doctor,
good,
how are
thanks.
you again? Sorry. Glad to have you on, obviously, and I don't normally do the Zoom type of podcast, but I'm excited because there's some amazing gems in your story and kind of what you're doing, obviously as a doctor as well, and what's happening at the moment in the modern era of breast cancer and the awareness to do it. Is, what is the current average at the moment, and how many people do to women? How many people is it someone has breast cancer?
So at the moment, they say that 1 in 7 women will be diagnosed in their lifetime. So if you live until you're 80, that risk is 1 in 7. But that doesn't mean that someone listening to the podcast has a 1 in 7 chance. The risk is still really small when you're young. If you're in your 30s, it's 1 in 204 women. But by the time you reach your 90s, it's almost 1 in 2. So the biggest risk factors are still being a woman and getting older.
Wow, that's so. It's just as a woman getting older, there's just this. Wow, it's quite speechless to
Yeah.
understand that.
If you kind of think cancer is a series of mutations that happen in the DNA, a bit like spelling mistakes in your genes. And it takes time for those mistakes to happen at the right time in the right order. And that's why the longer you live, the more chance your body has had for those mistakes to happen, which is why cancer is mainly a disease of the elderly.
Wow. Do you, for that then, do you look at more of a holistic approach to life, or do you kind of go to modern stuff, or do you stick to old school procedures and how we should live and eat and act?
Oh, great question. So, as a doctor who's had cancer 3 times, I'm very much evidence based. I do what I'm told. And I'm actually writing a book at the minute to debunk a lot of the alternative therapies out there because in this rise of social media and Facebook and TikTok, there are so many people selling things that just don't work.
Mm,
Crazy diets, crazy supplements. I can cure you and the doctors can't. And people, you're desperate for hope. And intelligent people are just scared and frightened into spending hundreds of thousands of pounds. But in the last 5 years, we've had 20 new drugs for breast cancer alone. Science isn't changing at a huge rate. And it really is incredible what the future will hold. We're looking at personalized medicine. So I can work out exactly what is wrong with your cancer, what genetic mutations are causing it, and hopefully give you treatment to stop it.
wow. So, for instance, if one woman's genetics were different to another person's, you'd kind of do a test on that and identify what the ups and downs are, for instance, and go from there
Yeah.
and break it
So
down.
we know cancer cells keep mutating and mutating. We know there are certain genes that can get switched off that stop them reacting to one drug. So I know if you have that mutation, I can give you a different drug. And I think that's where the future will be.
Wow. So I kind of, from this, Liz, I kind of want to take it all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
See your journey as not just as a doctor, but obviously getting breast cancer as well, is, I believe, twice?
3 times.
3 times. Wow. That is pretty crazy. Oh, it's crazy alone, but I'm thankful that you're still here today to tell the story and spread the word and bring awareness to it because, like I said at the start, you've got a pretty crazy story yourself, an amazing one, shall I say. So, where did it all start for you?
So I loved breast surgery. It was one of the first jobs I did as a junior doctor back in 1993. And in those days, it was kind of smash and grab. It was mastectomy or lumpectomy. That was it. Very, very cut and dry. And over the last 10 years of my training, breast cancer changed and suddenly it was its own speciality. And we brought in plastic surgical techniques. So we'd put scars around the nipple to hide them. And you would recreate breasts by bringing in tissue from the tummy or the back or using implants and using like origami to recreate nipples. And suddenly it was this most amazing, sexy, exciting speciality. Women were living longer. I'd get flashed in Sainsbury's by women saying, "Thank you so much. No one can see my scar." It was just amazing. And I loved it because there were no body fluids. Someone said you pick your surgical speciality by the body fluid you mind the least. And I just get the odd sweaty armpit, but no blood or vomit or anything. And you really get to know your patients. But I was 40, and I'll be honest, Ollie, I never check my breasts.
Uh,
I think, like most people listening, we don't check ourselves every month. We don't check our pee or our poo. Men don't check their testicles. I'm a doctor. I'm not going to get breast cancer.
yeah.
And I noticed a lump and I just thought it was a cyst. I'd had a cyst before, and they're common in your late 30s and 40s. And it was my mum who said, "Look, will you go and get it checked out?" And that cyst ended up being a 13 centimeter cancer. And as a consultant breast surgeon, I ended up having chemotherapy, a mastectomy, radiotherapy, hormone therapy to treat that cancer. And I realized how little I knew about the disease I spent my life learning to treat.
Wow. And is that where kind of, obviously that journey alone is pretty mad, but then is that where the kind of the penny drop where you started to invest really into this now and identify from someone who's experienced it, like, okay, I can
Yeah.
really show empathy to this person who's on the other side of the desk right now?
Yes, I'm going to put my hands up. As a surgeon, I had never read a breast cancer blog or been on a breast cancer charity website, seen what people were saying. I didn't have the time. I didn't need to know. And then suddenly I bought 20 books written by patients to find out what it is it like to have chemo. How do you cope with being made infertile? How do you cope with all the side effects? And I suddenly entered the online cancer space, and you realize there are some really scary blogs and some people telling you try turmeric or try iodine or don't have surgery. I thought a lot of this is BS.
Mm,
People don't know who to trust. And I was off work for 18 months and I went back for about 6 months before I had a recurrence. And it changed the language I used, because I used to tell people, Ollie, I've seen the worst of breast cancer, and I wanted to comfort them and say, it's just a little cancer. It's good that it hasn't spread. You're lucky we've caught it early, trying to give them hope. But no one's lucky to get cancer. And you don't realize that until you've been on the other side. And I think having had cancer made me realize that the hardest bit is when the doctors say goodbye, I'll see you in a year. And you're left thinking, right, how do I live? How
yeah.
do I have sex again? Should I be exercising? What do I eat? What do I do? No one's told me. And it's very easy to go down a rabbit hole on Facebook and do crazy shit.
Wow. So, like you just said, then though, like your sex drive goes, your
Yeah.
everything. You probably your not I wouldn't say your routine, but just how you maybe look at yourself. Like we go bring it back to like self love, respect, and kind of like who am I these days as a woman to, let's say from the original woman to losing that part of you.
Yeah.
You might feel like you've lost a part of your identity.
I You've nailed it. I lost everything. So as a 40-year-old, I was been married a couple of years. I was chemo made me infertile, so I was never going to have children. I had long hair, that went. I lost the ability to flirt because it's all tucking the hair behind the ears. I lost my breasts, so I could no longer wear sexy clothes showing the cleavage, that went.
Hmm.
I didn't look at myself from below the mirror down from below the neck down for about 5 months because I hated the scars on my body. I felt everyone's looking at me. I look different. I'm bald during chemo. It was really, really hard. Plus, I lost my career.
Hmm.
When it came back the first time, I couldn't operate. And I don't know who I am. I've spent 20 years defining myself. I'm a breast surgeon. And now I don't know who I am.
Wow.
And you lose the sex drive. We give women who've got breast cancer that's sensitive to estrogen, which mine was, hormones to stop them making any. And how do you explain to your new husband that it's not that you don't want sex, it's that you never want sex again? You have no sex drive. You never get that. You never feel horny when you watch a film. It's like, yeah, I just want a cup of tea. That's really, really hard.
Yep.
And it's like, this is the rest of my life. No one told me about this. No one warned me about this. How the flip do I cope?
Yeah. How I'm just gonna ask you now from a male's perspective, and obviously you were dealing with talking with your husband. How do you have these conversations, and how do you like obviously it's a good conversation, a good communication, but like
Yeah.
literally not turned on anymore.
It's really, really hard. And I struggled to make my husband understand. Because it's one thing trying to explain when you don't want sex, but you still find your husband attractive. It's hard to make them realize that that love is still there. It's just different. And a lot of people struggle, especially women who are new to dating. And I think it's having that communication, outside of the bedroom at a time when you're both relatively calm and relatively happy and not angry and upset or pissed off with each other. And I've talked an awful lot about sex. There's a chapter in my breast cancer book and on podcasts, and women have listened to that podcast with their husband. So
Wow.
they can kind of hear and understand, oh, now I get why she feels like that. It's because she doesn't have the hormones. There are ways to get that feeling back and to be intimate. But I think almost listening to someone else explain it can often make it go in. Like when my husband tells me how to ride a bike, I ignore him. But a friend says the same thing. I'm yet there. Thank you very much. It's just because my husband told me. And
Yeah.
I think hearing other patients talking about their experiences and men realizing, oh, I'm not the only one who feels like this. It is okay to touch your partner. You're not going to break her. You can sleep with her. Things may need to be different. I
Yeah.
think that can really help. It's communication, but it's so hard to do.
It definitely sounds it, but obviously you've come out the other end. Is it like, again, this is my non-knowledge this, but is there like a synthetic version which can help bring this back on, this libido or anything like that? Or is it kind of like, I don't know. Yeah.
No, not really. So estrogen is your sex hormone, and you have tablets to make you have basically zero, a lot less than women at the menopause. So it means for a lot of women, you no longer get physically turned on. You can feel mentally turned on, but your body doesn't react. So for a female, you don't get wet, for example. You can still climax and you can still masturbate and you still get those feelings. And often it's women remembering to get in touch with themselves, learning what they like, learning that once you do climax, you get those feelings back. It can happen, but it's never going to be spontaneous.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
never going to be, God, I fancy you. Can we have a quickie? It's like, I
perfect.
might need to use vaginal dilators or vaginal lubricant
Yeah,
or
yeah,
find other ways of being intimate. And that can be really hard. And again, I think a lot of women have told me that their partners are scared to initiate foreplay because they
wow.
don't want to hurt their wife. Because if you don't get wet, then the vagina is very dry, so sex can be painful. So they don't want to touch you. And then women are scared of a husband putting a hand on the shoulder because is that just a hug or is that a hug that means they want sex? And it's suddenly this this friction is coming, and it's just that communication and say, this is a non-sexual hug, I just love you. And then the woman saying she may have to start foreplay, she may have to initiate it when she's ready. And it's that whole flipping everything on its head. And if
Wow.
you don't talk about that, it can just create so much friction. And I was one of these women wanted their husbands to divorce them and go and find a woman with two healthy breasts and libido, because the guilt you feel and what you've brought to that relationship.
And how did you overcome that, Liz?
Just talking. My husband said, I'm not going anywhere. I love you. Don't be stupid. I mean, he's an amazing man. He's a surgeon as well. So we did kind of understand, but just honest, open communication, finding new ways to be intimate, hugging, massages, walking, just almost dating again, because you kind of stop when you've been in a long-term relationship, and just having the fun again and realizing it's not all about intercourse for an awful lot of people,
Mm,
and just finding new ways to enjoy each other. But it is hard
yeah,
if
well,
you're not ready to accept that this is your life because you've had cancer. As a patient, you can still have that resentment and you're not ready to deal with it.
how do you? I think like this might detour a little bit off where you're going, but Liz, but for instance, a lot of people, when we go through something or we're upset with someone, we're very good at forgiving others. Very good at forgiving others. But we really struggle. The hardest one to do
Yeah.
is forgiving ourselves. And obviously, with the traumatic event that you've gone through, not just once, twice, three times, how do you learn to forgive yourself? So then, instead of you going, I'd rather you be with someone else than me, just got two functioning breasts, however you want to say it, and
Yeah.
how do you do that?
Oh, I wish I had the answer. I think a lot of people blame themselves for getting cancer. I drank like a fish at Cardiff Medical School. I seriously, the nights I cannot remember. And we know alcohol increases the risk. It's the same when you don't exercise. If you're overweight, they can increase the risks. And it's very easy to think it's my fault. You blame yourself. And I think cancer turned me into a different person. I'm stronger. I'm more positive. I've kind of accepted this is my life. It's a wake up call. There is more to life than work. There are things I want to do. I was not a healthy person before. And it's learning to accept this has happened. I can't change it. It's out of my control. I can either decide to be angry and wallow in self pity for the rest of my life, or say, okay, yeah, this has happened, but I'm going to move on. And it takes time to get there. It probably took me a good year to say, you're okay. You're allowed to love, and actually to learn to ask for help, because I am so independent.
Yeah,
I want to do it all myself. I'm in control. I don't need anybody. I'm not going to let anybody in. And actually being able to be vulnerable and say, I'm struggling. I need help.
wow.
And that was one of the best things I could do, but it was really, really hard to ask.
That's amazing, Liz. That really is truly amazing to hear this. And so like you obviously talking about it brings you probably back to these stages of your life when you were in these areas. And
Yeah.
so it's amazing to hear that. So
I think a lot of us want to protect the people we love from what we're going through. I remember sitting on the floor of the shower crying during chemo when my husband had gone to work, just feeling so ill and so scared and so frightened. I didn't want him to know I was doing that.
so
And it's ridiculous because they would come and they'd be with you and comfort you. And I was shutting everyone out. And I had to learn to say, I need you. I can't do this alone. I am scared. I am frightened.
it's powerful that is though, for you to be able to drop that control and seek that.
Yeah.
Probably, like you said, it made probably the relationship a lot stronger than it is ever.
Yeah. And I think as a doctor, I want to help people. I'm uncomfortable being held, but I'm denying the people who love me the chance to help me. And I've had to learn to say, I can't control what they do. I have to give them that opportunity to show me the love that I show them.
Love that. You know, you just said something then as well about how to say it? It's as if you're a totally different person now to you were prior to
Yeah.
it. Right? And I think I read it in a book. I'm not sure which one, but it was kind of saying like someone said the best thing that ever happened to me was cancer
Yeah.
because it kind of ripped the band-aid off of this fear of these limiting beliefs I had of myself. And I started to truly do things which were aligned with me. And I thought, I'm going to do it now before it's too late. Is that true?
Yeah, I think so. And it's crazy. I had suicidal depression twice as a consultant breast surgeon, just dealing with the mental impact of telling 10 women a day, you've got cancer, it's come back, I can't cure you. No one gives you coaching to deal with all of that. And that wasn't enough to make me realize that I was struggling in my job. And when I had breast cancer and I was off sick during chemo, I realized I had no friends, I had no real hobbies, I had no social life outside of medicine. I wasn't volunteering, I rarely hit the gym. I was really, really unhealthy and I'd be unhappy for a while. But I thought, you are a doctor. You have to stay a doctor until you are 65. This is your life plan. You cannot veer. And I think for a lot of people, when something serious happens, it's that push that makes them take some pretty tough decisions and say, actually, I'm not happy,
Mm,
because it's scary when you think, if I leave medicine, what do I do? I've got bills to pay. But I'm glad it happened to me when it did, so I could make those changes and do the stuff I used to love doing before I went to medical school and start doing crazy hobbies and just looking after me and being a bit selfish.
amazing. That's amazing to hear that. You know, like you said about no one taught you how to live life once you were diagnosed or once you were clear.
Yeah,
Um, how did you find that out? And what is that for you? Because I'd love for my listeners or people, there's a high chance there's a lot of people who've either
yeah.
experienced it or are going through right now. And I'd love to think that they could hear this right now and go, these are a couple of the steps that helped me. Can't 100% say this is guaranteed to help you, but if
Yeah,
you try them, and I'm sure they'll change something in your perspective or how you act or think.
I would love to help anyone listening. And the first thing I would say is, you are not alone.
Mm.
I felt alone. I didn't see another breast cancer patient during all my treatment, and I had no one to talk to say, is it normal to feel like this? And what do you do? I was contacted by a couple of doctors who were having chemo at the same time of me and hadn't told anyone. And we found our own secret tribe of people who got it. And now there are so many different charities and forums and groups online where you can find your tribe, because your family don't get it. They don't understand what you're going through. And being able to share those emotions with people going through what you are can really, really help and make you know you are not alone.
Mm.
Cancer is never your fault. It's never your fault, and you can get through it, and most people do survive. But I would say social media can be a really scary place because people die and people get metastatic disease, and you feel this guilt that it's them and not you, guilt that your friends are dying before you. And you don't need to share your life on social media. You can step back. It is private. You can take a space if it's all too much.
Mm.
The thing that helps me is making lifestyle changes. And I'm not great. I'm a spokesperson for exercising cancer, but I've not been exercising 2 or 3 times a week. But we know if you can exercise 5 times a week, just doing weights and aerobic stuff, it can decrease the risk of recurrence by a third, and it can help with the symptoms. And when I'm out running or I'm swimming in a river, I'm just Liz.
Wow.
That's my mindfulness when I forget about I've got cancer, everything else going on in my life. And I think if you can find something that you do that you love, even if it's just half an hour a day, to give you that joy and say, you are a person, you are you. Cancer does not define you. And there is no limit on what you can and can't do in the future. And
Wow.
you'll have good days and you'll have really scary days when you get, we call it scanxiety, the fear of recurrence, the fear of waiting for a scan. You know those weeks are going to be awful, but
Yeah.
they'll pass.
Very true. When you said that, then I can not relate to that scenario, but can relate in a different dynamic. So, um, I've had 3 knee reconstructions on my right knee from rugby, ACLs.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, like yourself, maybe, well, you might have had some injuries too, but on the third one, it happened. I decided to retire and had a long layoff. And then recently I went back as I moved to Wales and I started playing for my local team again just to help them out. And I remember I trained Tuesday, I trained Thursday and it was fine. And then Saturday of the game, I was just sitting there in the changing room, Liz, and it was all fine. And then the coach came in, he went to speak, and I remember this wave of anxiety, just like, what happens if you
Yeah.
get injured again? What happens if you need us again? What happens if you go out there and it goes, and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? It was kind of,
Yeah.
you have to kind of reassure yourself, well, hang on, you did so and so on Tuesday, you did so and so on Thursday, you did so and so Friday, which they could have happened then, but
Yeah.
so it's kind of, I suppose it might be some similar formats to.
No, definitely. And it comes from a book that I love by an author called Sarah Knight, who wrote The Life-Changing Magic of Not Giving an F star CK. But she's got a book called Calm the F star CK Down. And it's says the one question to rule them all is, can you control it?
Yeah.
You can't control whether your knee gets knocked in a rugby match, but you've done the training, you know what to do. It's like, I can't control whether my cancer comes back. I
Yeah.
cannot control what the scan has shown. I've had it. I
Mm,
just need to live my life until I get the results. And that really helps bring me down.
yeah. Do you find journaling helps?
I was never a journaler, but I started a blog really because I was in denial. Part of me still doesn't think I've had cancer 3 times. And when I wrote the memoir, just writing all my thoughts down on the page was just a way of dealing with that emotion. I
Mm,
could be as angry or vitriolic as I liked, and then I can kind of step back and think, okay. And I tend to do something called morning pages, where first thing in the morning, I'll just free write for 10, 15 minutes, even if it's just my dreams or my husband refused to put the bins out, whatever it is. And it's just a way of clearing the head to start the day. I think, do you find it helpful?
Definitely, yeah. I have these journals, these mindset masters, and part of it is on the back of it we have like brain dump pages. So whenever you feel kind
Yeah.
of overwhelmed or anxious for no unsure reason, you kind of just write it down, and you realize that you
Yeah.
how much of that have I created, how much of that is true, and what can I control in the situation.
Yeah.
Well, you've kind of, it's kind of that mindfulness, but I think when we bring it up our brain onto a paper, it just, you realize what's true and what's not, and you got to be.
And I think and another book I love, Will It Make the Boat Go Faster, which was all about the men's, I think 2000 Sydney 8 rowing team. And they decided, no one thought they'd win, but for 4 years, every single decision was based on, will it make the boat go faster? If I go on my stag do for my best man and have a McDonald's, that's not going to make the boat go faster. And when, especially in what I do now, like I guess breast surgeon for the internet, you get so many requests on your time, and it's learning to stop and write them all down and say, okay, which of these are going to help me in my career? And which of these aren't, and do I have time to do them or not, rather than saying yes to everything and then getting in a big huge panic. So I think mind dumping is a brilliant way of just trying to get some control back.
How do you find that? And is obviously now you're a big, you're pretty big time on social media. Obviously, I see your following and the videos and everything, and you're helping so many people. But I find at times, and I can feel like this is stages. Like, where's the line of where can I have to switch off? I can't save like you can't save everyone.
You've nailed it. I have to remind myself that I volunteer my time doing all of this for free because I've retired. I don't have an income. And when you've got communities on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and LinkedIn and TikTok, and I get heartbreaking requests and messages every day on all 5 channels. Then there's the videos you want to do and trying to find time for writing, and it's like I spend all my life talking about breast cancer, and social media doesn't switch off, and you can be looking at it from 8 in the morning until midnight. And it's really, really hard to get that sense of, for me now, this is a job. I'm trying to set deadlines where I have half an hour a day where I reply to the comments that I can, but accept that I can't reply to everybody. And it kills me because they write really personal messages. And it's hard just thinking I can help the many, not the few, but I can't be personal. And just trying every couple of months, I think, no, hold on, you need to step back. You are burning out because I'm giving all my love to these random strangers online, but I've not seen my best friend for 3 months. And it can be a really weird, artificial kind of world that you live in that seems real.
Yeah, of course. Well, and again, you feel guilty for not helping people. Then, when if you've got
It's huge.
other people, but you've tried to help these 50 here, and everyone be grateful for the 50. It's kind of like if you're a GP and you see how quick that conveyor belt, you've kind of got to find out
Yeah.
that's enough. I'm checking out today. So
I know. And it's like I put a video up saying, I'm really, really stressed. I'm sorry not replying to the comments. I'm working on my 3rd book. And then people say, we know you're really busy, but could you just, and it's
just
like,
answer this one.
I know. The
Go
trick for
back.
me, I've learned, I don't look at my phone until lunchtime.
Nice.
I just try and think, right, I've got to focus on this today. Then at lunchtime, I can open the social media email world. And that helps a little bit.
That's a good way to start for sure. I think a lot of people could take a lot of gems from that. For instance, then, like you just said, what was the duration from the first diagnosis of yourself and then to the third one?
Yeah. So I was diagnosed in July 2015 when I was 40, and I had 9 months of treatment, chemotherapy, mastectomy, radiotherapy. And I went back to work. And then in May 2018, so kind of 2.5 years later, I had a local regional recurrence. So I had a nodule of cancerous tissue beneath my armpit. I've got expert hands. I just thought it was a bit of scar tissue. And that meant more surgery and another round of radiotherapy and having my ovaries removed.
Wow.
And then 5 years later, which actually lasted summer, the day before my memoir came out, I noticed an ulcer above my mastectomy scar. And that was another local recurrence. So I had surgery for that last year. And that was really hard because my mum had just died from cancer 6 months before. So
Wow.
I'm on cancer treatment for life now. I get injections in each bum cheek once a month, and I'm on a mild dose of chemo to hopefully stop it coming back a third time.
Wow. And like you just speak about, and sorry to hear about your mother as well.
Yeah.
I'm, you know, you talk about that, like that anxiety that kind of hits you now and then.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, and that's a lot. And then for you to be still getting maintenance and injections in the butt, things like that. Is it always that voice sometimes, or not necessarily anymore?
It took me 5 years to not wake up every day thinking, is this the day my breast cancer comes back? No, I've got inside knowledge because I've looked after women who've had breast cancer and I know how bad my cancer was and I know the potential. So I've got this added knowledge, but it's just you take a tablet every day, you see the scars every day, you're reminded constantly. Time was a huge healer. And now I don't really think about cancer all the while, which is often bad because I forget I don't have the energy levels I do. But whenever you get a call for a scan, you're just like, oh God, what if they find something? Everyone says you'll be fine because they cannot cope with the thought that you're not. But I know that it might show something. So no one can reassure you. And I've now learned to tell my husband and my dad, I'm going to be an irritable, moody cow until I get the results. And it's not your fault. And don't blame me. Just accept this. I think what's hard is when you have a niggle. So I had hip pain worse at night, and that can be a symptom of bone mets. And
Mm,
I was convinced that I got metastatic cancer. And then you're there at night Googling, how long do I wait until I tell somebody? And then you tell the GP and they send you into the clinic. Think, oh, crikey, they're worried. This could be serious. And it builds and builds and builds and builds until you finally get that scan and that the anxiety, the lack of sleep, the anorexia, you don't want to eat, you just feel sick. It's horrible. You cannot concentrate on anything. And then it's almost an anticlimax when it's good news because you've built yourself up to prepare for the worst. You're ready. And they say, no, it's fine. You think, that's great, but I'm going to have to go through this again at some point in the future, the next time I get a symptom.
wow. I can imagine the toll it would take, and the stress, not just on yourself, but people, your loved ones around you, because
Yeah.
they normally cop it more than anyone. You know, I mean, other people you don't know, you treat nicer than you would to the people you love because it's a safe space. You speak a lot about, on, you know, from looking at your bio and reading a bit about yourself, Liz, is like you talk a lot about what's kept you sane in those situations, and you started to into training, half Ironmans,
Yeah.
cycling. Was that something you did beforehand, or was this?
So I'm embarrassed to say I did no sport at school. My maiden name was Ball, but I couldn't hit, throw, or catch one to save my life. I did everything I could to avoid sport. Mind you, we had this awful communal showers. Not my thing. As a junior doctor, I would join a gym and I'd go once, then I'd just throw £1,000 away because I never had the time to go back with night shifts. And I did the London Marathon when I was 30, thinking I managed to get a ballot place. I did it for the local hospice and I was clueless. I did the Adidas half marathon 6 weeks before. I got a knee sprain and I hobbled around dressed like a sunflower in about 6.5 hours, completely clueless. I did used to swim. So when I was a teenager, I used to race butterfly and breaststroke, and I didn't need shoulder pads in the 80s. I had huge, big shoulders. And then I started dating my husband and became a cycling widow. And I thought, if I don't get a bike, I will never see him because he cycles all morning and sleeps all afternoon. And within a year, we did the Ride 100. And then I thought, I want a sport that's just for me. So my husband signed me up to do a triathlon just before my 40th birthday, which I loved. And then I got cancer. And back in it was 10 years ago now, we didn't realize that exercise can help with the side effects of recurrence. It can help with reducing exercise can really, really help reduce the risk of recurrence, help you cope with side effects. I didn't tell my team that I was going to carry on training because I thought they'd tell me off, but I did a sprint triathlon during chemo. I had an amazing coach who managed to get me to do a half Ironman a year after training. And that was to get me around safely without compromising my immune system. Because I'm a competitive, I'm a type A, you know, you compare your old figures and why aren't I as fast as I was pre-chemo? It's like, no, we need to get you around safely. This is about finishing, not about competing. And then I realized I wasn't in the gym, and almost the weight training is far more important for cancer patients to improve muscle mass and bone strength. So I managed to get really ripped and shredded. I was squatting, you know, my body weight, and I did that when I was 48. And then I discovered river swimming.
Wow.
I love going icy swims in the winter. And actually, I've learned to exercise because I enjoy it rather than I'm meant to do a 14-minute time trial and my heart rate isn't done. I'm exercising because I enjoy it. And that's been so freeing. But it
Yeah.
reminds me of what I can do and what cancer can't take away from me.
Wow. It's really glad you say that as well. Obviously, like a lot of the things you just spoke about then was do this to prevent this, do this to prevent that. And it kind of seems like you got to this stage of, I'm just going to do it for Liz.
Yeah, that's it. So during chemo, I thought, right, when this finishes, because you lose your sense of taste. I would lose 3 kilos every 3 weeks. Everything tasted horrible. You think, I'm going to live off green food. I'm going to be this yoga green goddess. You know, actually, I just want to eat cake because it tastes good. And I live by the 80-20 rule. We
Yeah.
should all be eating a healthy plant-based diet. But if I want a glass of bubbly or a piece of cake or popcorn, I'm going to have it because food should be fun and life is hard enough. And I think it's finding that balance.
Yeah.
You're great most of the time. And it's just taking all the rules and regulations. And I think I used to think that I had to do crazy sporting challenges because people expected it from me because of my online presence. And then I'd get sick or I'd get fatigued and I couldn't do it and I'd beat myself up. But now it's like, yeah, no more challenges. I don't need to prove myself to anybody. I just want to enjoy being fit.
Wow. We've done some exceptional challenges, mind. Like, you've published a book, your memoir. As of looking, you did a TED talk in Germany. Is that right?
Yeah, that was amazing. That
How
was when I learned how to talk properly in front of an audience.
how did that opportunity come about?
So there's a pediatric surgeon who does a lot of training to teach people how to give a presentation because most medical presentations are terrible. We read out a list of bullet points with very, very busy slides full of graphics and data. No one ever understands it. It's boring. You switch off. It's even worse now. Everyone's on Twitter. And this surgeon had presented at Stuttgart the year before, and they were asking for people to talk about motion, emotion, and emotion. And they were looking for women. And he put my name forward and he coached me. And it's with TED, they buy the tickets before they know who's coming. And it's, why do a load of German people care that I've had breast cancer? Because normally when you're talking, I'm going to tell you this because that's what I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
I guess it's a bit like a podcast. Why do the listeners care about this subject? And I had to learn how to make it actionable for them, not to have words on slides and just to tell a story. And for me, it was like being in the operating theatre again, that putting on an act, right, I'm here, I'm amazing, I'm going to make you laugh, I'm going to make you cry. And I now talk all over the world about how to improve cancer care, and I love it.
I feel like you've this is I don't know, might have been a blessing in disguise. All of these things, it's really kicked on your life
I
in
think
different
as a
sensibilities.
surgeon, sorry, I'm interrupting, I don't mean to.
That's fine.
As a surgeon, I would maybe treat 110 cancers a year, but I can reach 1 million people with a video.
Yeah.
And it's embracing the power of social media and sharing your story and being open and honest. And I'm lucky because I'm a doctor and a patient. Healthcare professionals will often listen to what I have to say, whereas they might not listen to patients. And I try to speak for everybody, not just my own story. But it's amazing. I never knew I could find other ways to help people. I thought surgery was it.
Wow. Well, you're surely doing that, Liz. If you don't mind me asking, like, explain to me the stages that, like, you, for instance, I read your first ever diagnosis was stage 3 cancer, breast cancer.
Yeah.
So, do you mind explaining
So
the stages to me?
no, stages are an American thing, but it's often the first question anyone with breast cancer asks you. Um, there are 5 stages of breast cancer, and a lot of cancers actually. Stage 0 is a cancer that can't spread. So those cells haven't got the ability to move around the body and metastasize. That's not invasive. Then stage 1, 2, or 3 go up in how likely you are to get metastatic disease in the future. And it's basically the smaller they are and the less aggressive they are and the fewer lymph nodes that are involved, the lower the stage. So I had a 13-centimeter cancer that had spread to 4 lymph nodes. So based on that, mine was a stage 3 because it was over 5 centimeters. Stage 4 means that it's spread beyond the breast and it's treatable but incurable.
Wow. Well, how blessed and lucky, and everything that, to, yes, it's been a bad situation, but it could have been a lot worse as well, right?
It could have been a lot worse, and it still may be. Breast cancer can come back 20 or 30 years in the future, and you can worry about the statistics. Doctors can give you computer programs that can say you've got an 80% chance of being alive in 10 years, and you can obsess about the numbers. But actually, it's 50-50.
Yeah.
It comes back or it doesn't. It's out of my control. I can live my life worrying, or I can just get on with my life and stop waiting for it to happen. But that's hard to do.
I bet. if I said to you then, what are the common misconceptions about breast cancer? What you hear, like you said, the gurus online, which aren't actually gurus.
Yeah. So there are lots of things that don't cause breast cancer. So people will tell you that underwired bras cause breast cancer. That's rubbish. Deodorants cause breast cancer. That's rubbish. That sugar causes cancer. That's rubbish. Mobile phones don't cause breast cancer. Artificial sweeteners don't cause breast cancer. The estrogens that you get in plants and dairy, none of them cause breast cancer. The biggest risk factors are being a woman and getting older. And after that, your risk goes up the more you drink, the more you weigh, and the less you exercise.
Wow.
That's it. When it comes to cures, people will sell you magic diets, that the pH diet, that you can alkalize your body. But if you did alkalize your body, you'd be dead. But they sell huge amounts of money on juices and supplements, turmeric and cannabis oil and vitamin B17, which doesn't even exist. That's ground up apricot kernels. But you are desperate for a cure. You are desperate for certainty. And when a doctor says, I've treated the cancer, but it could still come back. And then this guy on YouTube with 1 million followers says, yes, but if you buy my supplements, I'll cure you. And we are sucked in with clever marketing and testimonials.
Yeah.
And these testimonials could be made up. There's no proof they actually had cancer, but it's like that TripAdvisor effect. One glowing testimonial will make you part with all your money when there's no proof, but you don't care because this person said they were cured. And the problem is, what I'm saying isn't sexy. It's not exciting. It's boring. It's hard work.
Yeah.
It's much easier to go and buy. So like a protein powder in the gym thinking, yeah, this will make me stacked. Yeah, but you've got to put the hard work in as well.
Yeah, you can't just have the protein shake without the 90% of hard work you put with it. So true though, isn't it? I think I might be wrong here, but I feel like the where we're at right in life right now is we are struggling with that mental resilience at times, and
Yeah.
I have to be careful how I say it, but the word mental health, I think the word mental health sometimes now is being thrown around a bit too easy, and there's people out there with legitimate mental health, suicidal thoughts, depression, struggling to get out of bed, and then we've got someone right now that that is looking for the quick fix or looking for these band-aid effects.
Yeah.
But not actually willing to do the work. And I have to, I think we all know what I'm on about right now. It's not for everyone, but I just feel like right now we're just becoming not as resilient to life, because life is hard, but it's how we turn up every day.
Yeah. I think we become spoilt and selfish and everything is too easy. We can get what we like on our phone within seconds. We don't wait for anything. And I think we forgot that the basics of living well are having a good diet and exercising regularly and sleeping well. And those are some of the basic cures for a lot of mental health problems to help. Drugs can help a bit, but those others count.
Yeah.
And we want quick fixes. You want to pay supplements rather than almost tackling the problems. Often there is no real cause for mental health, but if it's stress you're triggered by a bad job or a bad relationship or the bills that are piling up, who do you go to just to help you almost take stock of your life and say, okay, these are problems I need to fix? And I use a great tool called the Wheel of Life when I talk to children, how you divide your life up into areas like money, fun, friends, growth, charity, and give them all a score out of 10. And you think, well, my money is 1 because I never open the bills. I don't know how bad it is. That's something you need to fix. When was the last time you phoned your friends? And just doing what you can to give yourself the best chance.
I like that a lot because from the outside in, I think we're very good at giving advice, but we're very hard on taking advice. I think everyone's the same like that. And we think life's going bad at the moment. You're like, well, look how much you've invested into your career right now. You've ignored your social life. You ignored your general health. You're eating tuna and 2-minute noodles every day because you just go all the time. You're asking yourself why you feel absolutely fucked.
Yeah. No, you are. And then when your career gets taken away, you think, well, what's left? And that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
No friends, no hobbies, no social life, no career. My financial independence are gone. I'm 43 in the middle of the countryside with no children. What do I do with my day? And I think we need to remind kids going to university, hang on to the friends and the hobbies and the things that make you you. Don't let go of them. They're so important. And also teaching people what the signs and symptoms of depression and anxiety are. Because when I was in the middle of it, I didn't know it was coming. Now I know my warning signs are when your sleep gets affected, your appetite goes. So you can say, okay, I'm starting to become a little bit depressed or anxious. Is there anything I can do in my lifestyle to bring me back before I get into trouble?
What advice would you give to yourself as a younger version of you? You
I wouldn't have listened.
got it.
I was an invincible junior doctor. I was going to be Wales' first female trauma surgeon, married with 3 kids by the time I was 27. And God, I was clueless.
Wow. How was this? So changed a lot
I
then.
had big frizzy hair, geeky glasses. I was the girl that no guy spoke to. I didn't kiss anyone until I was 21. I was that geek. I think I'd have said, you need to learn to let people in
Mm,
and cherish the friends you have because you need them. You may think you don't need them, but you do.
yeah.
And no one cares how you look. They're all too busy worrying about how they look.
Worry about
So
them.
wear what you like.
So true. And that's what I love about obviously yourself on social media, Liz, is you really don't care. You really wear your heart on your sleeve. And for some people that's too much, but for you it's like you're really buying into being your authentic self, which is
I
amazing.
think it comes back to, as a junior surgeon, I never saw my bosses cry
Mm,
or talk about how upset they were when there was a young woman who was dying or how much a complaint bothered them. I never saw them. They were not emotionless, but they were like superheroes.
mm,
And then as a consultant surgeon myself, I don't let my juniors see me crying in the toilets because I've just told a 25-year-old she's dying, or what do you do when you get your first complaint. And I think it's the same online. When all you see us being amazing, it's like, hey, I've got cancer 3 times, but I'm going to go and run a marathon and do this thing. Oh my God, I hate her.
yeah,
And that's why I'm very conscious about showing I have good days. I worry. I'm not perfect. So you can dream of being like me, the real me, not beating yourself up because you can't be the person that I show you I am.
it's that saying, isn't it? The comparison is a thief of joy. We always
Yeah.
compare to ourselves, others, and what they're doing. Are we doing less than them, or they always seem like they're living this high life, or X, Y, and Z, and realistically, all you're doing is really suffering yourself.
No, they don't see me having a really shit day and, oh, I'll go and put some makeup on and film a quick video. Hi, everything's wonderful. And then I go back to crying again. We only let people see what we want. And I think it's realizing, again, like social media and body image, everything's Photoshop. Nothing is real. And
Yeah,
by being real, you can help people realize that they are not alone. There are people they can actually get on with and learn to cope.
very true. I want to ask you as well, what is the modern treatments or procedures they're currently doing right now in breast cancer that
Yeah.
you might not be around on yet?
So the main treatment is still surgery to remove cancer. And there are lots of options now to move tissue around and reconstruct a breast. So you don't need to lose it. If you have a high risk of it coming back, and that's about a third of women, we do offer chemotherapy, but there are now lots of different types of chemotherapy depending on various mutations you have. We are looking at immunotherapies to try and boost your B and T cells to treat cancers. And actually, I'm on a drug that I did my PhD on back in 2002, and I'm now having it to reduce the risk of my cancer coming back. So there's lots of tailored new drugs that are coming in, targeting specific receptors on breast cancer cells. And in the last 5 years, there are 20 new drugs for breast cancer alone.
Wow.
So whatever your doctor tells you is your prognosis now, it's 10 years out of date because those trials take 10 years to do. So more and more people are living, and it's incredible. But 31 people still die of breast cancer, men and women, because men get it.
Mm.
And that's why I think we need to raise awareness, and just there's only a third of people are going for their mammograms. Women are not going after COVID for whatever reason. And we need to get women and men checking their breast tissue every month, because the sooner you pick something up, the quicker it will be treated and the less treatment you'll need.
Making me want to touch my breast, my chest
Actually,
right
it's
now.
true. There's a couple of great guys in their 40s who are male breast cancer influencers. You know, it's just found out it was jogger's nipple. I thought it was nothing. Men do have a little bit of breast tissue, and it should be something that we all do, but we don't because we're invincible. It's like, do you check your poo every time you flush to see if there's blood in it?
No, true, that's very
And the
true.
trick, if you flush the loo with a lid up, then the microbacteria can spray up to 6 feet in the air.
Mm.
So
Have
if
you,
you're standing over the toilet breathing, the
you
germs
prob-
from your shit can go into your mouth. So before you close the lid, look for blood.
there you go. There's some hot
That's
tips.
a bit gross,
No,
but
no, it's fair though. But like, if you really want to be thorough with yourself, you might as well do the whole check, the whole once over. Um,
yeah.
what would you say the five? I don't know, maybe 3 or 5 hot tips for someone to. I know you said is you can't prevent it, but I know you've
Yeah.
mentioned things, exercise and X, Y, and Z, but and keeping body fat down. Is there anything else? Certain dietaries or foods or
So the 3 biggest things you can do to reduce your risk are cutting alcohol down. Alcohol directly causes cancer. There is no safe level, and ideally less than 14 units a week. And it doesn't matter whether you have them all on a Sunday night or you spread them all throughout the week, it's the volume. So try and cut that down if you can. And we know this is hard to talk about. People who are obese have an increased risk of getting many cancers, not just breast cancer, but it's hard to get the weight down. It's not always a case of just eating too much. And it's really hard to talk about without upsetting people, but it is a fact. And if we can help young children be aware of what weight is, we may help reduce that, but it's really hard to talk about. The second thing is exercise. We know that if you exercise regularly, that can reduce the risk of a lot of cancers by 20%. And the diet, so the World Cancer Research Fund is a huge charity that looks at every single piece of diet research related to cancer. And they've said everybody, whether you've had cancer or not, should be eating a plant-based diet with a rainbow of fruit and veg, limit red meat to 3 times a week, lots of whole grains. That's it. No supplements, no vitamins. If you have a healthy diet, you shouldn't need them.
What about
but actually that's a luxury, because not everyone can afford to buy fresh fruit and vegetables and cook themselves. We don't have the time, we can't afford it. And it's, you do the best you can with your circumstances.
and what about, obviously there's a craze at the moment, intermittent fasting and regeneration.
Yeah.
Is that something you highly recommend too?
No, I think it's pseudoscience bullshit, pardon my French. There are some studies.
Right, Becca's probably going crazy right now hearing this then.
Sorry, useful facts. There are some studies that show that intermittent fasting may help symptoms during chemotherapy, but there is no concrete proof that it makes any difference on cancer outcomes.
Wow.
Some people use intermittent fasting like the 5-2 diet as a way of keeping their weight down, and as a form of dietary control that can help. But as you and I know, the minute you stop a diet, you go back. And I think it comes back to having healthy food at every meal is much better than fasting and then crashing and coming back on it. But there is no science to prove it has any effect on cancer outcomes. So you don't need to do it. You don't need to feel guilty about doing it.
Wow.
And you run the risk of not having the vitamins and minerals you need by cutting things out, especially low carb doesn't work. Sugar. Oh, this is my big bugbear, Ollie. People say that sugar feeds cancer, so you should cut sugar out of the diet. And there's a doctor, Mark Hyman in the States, who says 70% of cancers are caused by food. It's BS, because every single carbohydrate, fruit, vegetable, nut, seed is broken down into sugar. If you cut sugar out your diet, you're talking about a carnivore diet, which A, is really unhealthy and isn't giving you the fiber you need to boost your gut microbiome. It's ridiculous.
So much information out there, like you said, though, isn't it? Like I kind of ask myself, then why do they promote this then if it's a load of rubbish?
To make money.
Okay.
People are making millions and millions of pounds selling books and courses and coaching. And here's a link to get money off the juicer I recommend. People are making billions of pounds. The supplement industry is worth like 6-7 billion in the States alone. And no supplement is regulated. There is no law that says a turmeric supplement has to contain 20 milligrams of turmeric. It could be talcum powder for all you know. They're not regulated by law. There is no proof, no matter what the website says, that what you are buying actually is what you're taking. And actually a third of the supplements sold on Amazon don't contain what they're meant to.
So it's kind of like daylight drug dealing.
Yeah, it is. It's the worried well. I think you've got a lot of people in their late 30s, early 40s who have disposable income, who want to feel good. It's like menopause shampoo. How is that a thing? They're making money off us because they know we are desperate to reverse the anti-aging process, to be cool, to have the latest thing. You don't need any of it.
Wow. There you have it then. Liz, I've really enjoyed this today. I've enjoyed so much of your journey. You have such a positive energy about you, and you seem like you just thrive in life every day. But for you to bring this awareness to people to understand the myths, the truths, and actually your proven experiences, and you to be truly authentic to yourself. So I've really enjoyed this one today, and I know there's so much more left in you as well to keep on keeping on. One thing I always ask my guests, Liz, is just what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for my body for getting me through cancer treatment, and I'm grateful for the love of my family who have kept me going. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on. I'm very grateful for you to share your story and to share, like I said just a minute ago, the awareness to it all. And honestly, getting to know you as well. It's a blessing, this is. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Ollie. Sorry I couldn't be there in person.
No, totally fine. Thanks.